and gentlemen, welcome back to the Cinema 3D Intel G-Skill GSL Super Tournament. I am Moletrap. With me here is Wolf, and together we are Wolf and Moletrap, the unmerged casting individuals. Here for you today. We are filling in a little bit today. First of all, real quick, address the elephant in the room. I know a lot of you were expecting Tastosis today, but there was, unfortunately, a bit of a scheduling snafu, and we don't have the technology yet, the holographic technology yet, to have them cast in the studio from their plane to Columbus. Not quite. Yeah. Maybe next season. We'll see. But, Wolf and I actually had other stuff we were doing today, but out of the kindness of our hearts, we wanted to get your backs and make sure that you had some English casting today, because otherwise you would have been just watching the Korean casters, who are great, by the way.
You can still watch them, actually.
You can still watch them if you want to, but we're filling in for you today for Tastosis today. And best wishes to them on their flight to Columbus for MLG. But I got to say, in a greedy way, I am really glad that there was a scheduling error, because we get to cast the most awesome series today.
That's very true.
We're going to see Nesty versus Bomber. Ah!
And not to forget,
oh my god, that's going to be epic.
MVP is playing as well.
MVP is playing today.
MMA is playing. Violet is playing.
MMA versus Supernova is going to be crazy as well. That's going to be some high-level stuff right there. And yeah, like you said, Ryung versus Violet, that's going to be crazy too. Both those guys didn't meet in Code A, but they were both at about the same level in Code A. Violet got into Code S and Ryung didn't. But anyway, here's our matchups today. In fact, there you go. We just kind of said all of them, so I don't think we need to go over them too much. Again, a lot of Terrans today, but a couple Zergs as well.
Keen versus Juke 2 is not actually happening today because of the MLG schedule change.
Yeah, the last one is a Terran versus Zerg, but it was changed because Bomber is flying tomorrow to MLG as well. Tomorrow. And this is going to be tomorrow's matches.
Yeah, tomorrow's matches will be TSL Trickster versus the Best Foyu, MVP Genius versus Slayer's Men, Hongin Prime Wii versus TSL Revival, Startail Ace versus Marine King Prime Wii. Some great matches coming up tomorrow. I will be here.
Yep, and then next week, Clyde versus the Best. Should be interesting. Bjorn versus Slayer's Alicia, which will actually be very good as well. Both players doing very well in their previous Code A's, battling together. SC versus Maka. Maka getting there for a walkover. And then Pult versus Liquid Huck, the last hope for the foreign scene. And here is the last group, which is Next Line versus Next Kyrix, like you said yesterday, a team kill. Virus versus Nada. Which is happening today, even though it's part of that group of the bracket, technically. And those are all going to be very exciting as well. Definitely good round of 32. Ended up with some solid stuff. And here's today's matches again for you guys. MVP versus GanZI. It's going to be happening first. It's going to be awesome. GanZI, I was talking to Slayer Sella, the coach of the Slayers team beforehand. He's back. He's back from checking out the Heart of the Swarm. I asked him about it, and he was very disappointed that they didn't get to play the whole campaign. He's like, only 2 levels. But apparently they were good levels, according to other people I've talked to.
Yeah, they look pretty awesome. You should check those out.
I asked him, I was like, is GanZI going to beat MVP? And he said, well, on paper, he can beat MVP. So we'll see if, like communism, GanZI's performance will not actually... come up to what is expected from its theory, or if he can actually bring it home. You know, he did actually get some good wins in the Team League. He played very well in the Team League. So, I mean, they're both Brood War pros, and in Brood War, you know, they were kind of about the same place. Right before their Brood War careers ended, MVP really got pretty good in Brood War, but before that, they're kind of on the same level. So we'll see if GanZI can maybe step it up a notch and show some of his Team League performance and give MVP good matches. I mean, we didn't think Creator was going to do very well at all against MVP, and he almost beat him.
Yeah, exactly.
So you never know.
MVP, you know, was after that happened, I kind of feel like MVP, he might not be playing at his best right now.
Yeah.
Sella said that he thinks on ladder, GanZI beats MVP more often than not.
Oh, really? Oh, that's what he meant. Okay.
Yeah, that's what he was saying. So it's interesting that that he would say that, and also still feel a little uncomfortable, unconfident about today's matches. So it's kind of weird that he said that, but he said it's possible, and he beat him on the ladder. So
Nice. That's good. I misunderstood him. That's why. Okay.
Oh.
I didn't realize he
I
said
thought you
on
said
ladder.
that before I was there.
No. Gotcha. Anyway, but regardless, I think it's a thing where, I mean, it's still something where the practice, putting it into practice, actually beating MVP in a tournament is really going to be a different thing.
Yeah, tournament is way different than ladder. Way different.
Quite different.
Especially if you're MVP and you have tons of experience in tournaments. Whereas GanZI, not so much. I mean, he's played a lot more recently, but he definitely doesn't have the experience under his belt that MVP has.
No, definitely not. Especially not in Starcraft 2.
Oh,
so yeah. I mean, GanZI, he was actually he wasn't super terrible in Brood War.
Yeah.
He was actually one of the few Brood War pros that has come over to Starcraft 2 that. Like most of them, like even Nesty and MC, they never played. Like they never got out of their qualifiers or anything like that. But GanZI, he actually played sometimes for his team in Pro League and stuff like that. He wasn't like really good. He didn't play that often, but he was actually
he was
at a high enough level to be at the bottom of the A-teamers, which is actually very, very good if you consider all of StarCraft.
That's very true.
Anyway, so we're gonna get into that match pretty soon. And let's go ahead and take a look at the players and their booths. There's MVP. Man, that is so much stuff written there. I can't even read it all because he's been in so much of everything. He's won like everything.
Look at this win rate versus Terran at the bottom. 11 wins and 2 losses, 84.6%. Now that's in recent history. In his overall history, it's something like 79% wins.
It is exactly 79.41%.
Well, that's because I know mine stopped Mole Trap.
Right. It's not counting the World Championships, which he did pretty well in as well.
Yeah, he's done incredibly well, taking out Marine King twice in 2 separate finals. Marine King definitely a great TVT player as well. It's basically one of his most notable achievements, really, was defeating him.
But I mean, here's the thing though, MVP was considered unbeatable in TVT until Bomber beat him not that long ago. So he's showing some chinks in his armor.
Remember that if Bomber beats Nesty, they're not that far apart from each other on the bracket either.
That's right. That's right. Anyway, Slayer's GanZI is his opponent.
Yeah, next up is Slayer's GanZI, who's, of course, his win rate versus Terran is not as impressive. He's got one win and 3 losses. It's 25%. Did take out Butterfly Effect to earn his spot here in the round of 32.
Yep.
He hasn't yet qualified for Code S, doing okay in Code A. Getting knocked out in May in his first round, so he's going to have to requalify. In March, did a little bit better. And he's, I've talked to him before. I talked to him last time in the round of 64 when he was here. And overall, he doesn't seem overconfident. He feels almost a little nervous, but he's definitely got that mindset of, I'm going to practice hard. I want to do well.
Yeah, and those wins against Butterfly Effect have got to be really important for him as well, just because of his, I mean, from a psychological standpoint, he had not won a tournament game against a Terran before that.
That's true.
One of his losses in the GSTL was to a fellow Terran. Let me check who that was exactly. That was Gumio, and actually MVP beat him in the GSTL also. So that's like really, going into that, you're like, oh my god, how am I ever going to beat this guy?
Yeah.
But a couple wins against a fellow Terran, not the best, but a Terran.
Yeah, and he said
Hopefully
he beat him on ladder.
Boost.
So,
yeah,
we'll see.
Whoa! MVP sporting a brand new yellow shirt.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
That's cool. Definitely a change from their old colors. They used to have a black t-shirt.
Scoggins on it, maybe a new sponsor. Now, the maps, of course, are Dual Sight, Terminus Re, and Zelnog and Caverns. The matchup is TVT and GanZI. Not eliminate any maps.
Dude, it looks like... Sorry, I gotta cut this in while he's still on the screen. It looks like Scoggins is like a burger joint. He's like a worker for him. Doesn't that look like a burger joint?
Yeah, it actually doesn't even say Scoggins. It says something else. I can't read it.
Good wins or something?
Good wins, yeah, that's what it looks like it is. So, sorry I said the sponsor wrong. It's kind of hard to read on our preview screen here.
Don't tell the IM coach I said that. He's around here somewhere.
I know he is. He's always around. He's wearing pink. How you can usually find him. Alright, these 2 players getting pumped, getting ready. The first map is Dual Sight.
Yeah, GanZI looks intent, man. He looks focused. MVP, maybe he's one of those players that might go into this thinking, oh, this is going to be an easy win, and might get caught off guard. We're going to find out here pretty quick on Dual Sight who is going to be the winner of the first game or who is going to lose here at the GSL Super Tournament.
I am MVP versus Slayers GanZI.
All right, down here in the bottom left on the green verdant hills, grassy hills of dual site, we have a pause from GanZI, who is not the purple player. All right, that was quick.
Probably something wrong with his settings. He noticed right off the bat.
Yeah, he noticed like right off the bat. He like hit Control 5 and it didn't hotkey his command center, and he's like, wait a second, I need to fix this.
I'm trying to read that sponsor name. I'm so intent on knowing what it actually says so we can give him the full credit. Just like keep looking at the screen, can't read it.
Quick, run over there and poke in his booth. We'll find out. So we'll find out pretty quick here what's going on. Sella's right there. You can see him. Where's Sella? There he is. Walking over to see what's going on in GanZI's booth. We'll find out in just a moment.
I predict it's most likely just either his mouse stopped working suddenly or he forgot the hotkey. You know, some people use different hotkeys for certain things, like build SCV, he may set to Q or something, and he's like, I pressed Q and it didn't build an SCV, so gotta pause the game.
Yeah.
So that'll be a pretty big deal.
Yeah, it's definitely a possibility. Since, I mean, it happened just right in the beginning of the game.
Yeah, right at the beginning of the game. And that's always the best time to pause, right at the beginning of the game. Because you don't want to pause in the middle of the game. Or
yeah,
like,
man.
You don't want your Korean observer. That's a mystery, man. I talk to you about this every day. It's a mystery. Why did the Korean observer pause in that game versus Revival versus Ensnare, Game 3 on Belcher Beach? Why was that pause there? They never told us? I want to know. It's a mystery.
The Korean observer is a genius.
He is so good at observing.
He is an orchestrator of observing. It's so fun. I got to watch him observing a game. Like, he was just watching Top practice versus Rainbow before Rainbow's matches. And, like, he, like, can't help but do awesome observing. Like, he was just there, just hanging out with us. He wasn't on camera or anything. He's, like, doing this, like, perfect movements and, like, every keystroke decisive. I actually have a video of him on my YouTube channel.
He's like a maestro, man.
On my YouTube channel, Moletrap SC2, playing as Terran versus Zerg player, doing the SC Foyu style. Of just doing, like 15 barracks. Aggression. He's like super fast player. He's a high level master as well.
Yeah, actually all of our Korean.
So I'm trying to give him credit just in case we find out that he just accidentally hit the pause key.
Yeah, well, I mean, because he's such a master, such a maestro of his observing, I think it's almost impossible that it could be an accident. It's a mystery, Moletrap. Mystery I want solved.
Yeah. He was an old programmer. I forgot his ID. He told me his ID once as well, but he was a Star 1
Yeah, pretty much all the Korean casters or commentators are old pro gamers.
Yeah.
So, if you guys didn't know that.
The Korean, the English stream observer, by the way, who's also very good, is Startail Legend. If you heard of him, there was some controversy over there. Sometimes, like, Jay, our producer, says stuff to us, and we're like, "Thanks, Jay." So some people thought Jay was the observer. So they're like, "Yay, go observer Jay!" And we're like, "No, he's the producer.
Yeah,
he doesn't do the observing."
I got to give all the credit to Legend, who's also a high Masters player.
Yeah, very high
Plays
Masters
for Startail.
Very good as well. I gotta see if I can get a video of him before I leave. Maybe not. He's leaving tomorrow. I'm leaving tomorrow.
He's not leaving.
He's leaving tomorrow. He's gonna take my passport, grow a mustache and draw a mustache on my picture and try and pass myself off to me. Anyway, we're gonna get back into the game here in just a moment and
do those intros.
Let's see if we can get the intros down this time. In just a moment on dual sites. In just a moment, and we'll see if we can get some word as to what the cause of the pause was.
The cause of the pause?
I know you guys are all curious. Y'all want to know. And inquiring minds want to know. Anyway, we're going to get back to the game here in just a moment. And here is... Just pretend nothing happened. In the bottom left-hand corner with a few more SCVs than last time we saw him. MVP, the clear favorite here. Oh, wow. That's cool.
That was really well drawn.
It's like a... Is that an adjutant with a Terran symbol? That is sweet. And his opposition player, who hasn't done quite as well in the GSL, trying to distinguish himself here in the Super Tournament. Slayers GanZI.
He went gas first, Moletrap.
Oh dear! Danger, danger, Will Robinson.
I love that movie. I actually have only seen it like twice, and it was when I was really young. But
movie?
What? It's not a Lost in Space.
Okay.
Are we talking about Lost in Space?
Yeah, I was referring to the original TV series.
Oh, I actually never watched that because I was too young.
Well, I mean, it was on in the 50s or something, so I was too young too, but I still know where the original was. I'll look it up. Anyway, so yeah, gas first. GanZI, this is a really good map for Banshees. I would not be surprised. Okay, Lost in Space was the 60s, but I would not be surprised if GanZI went for some Banshees on this map. He is a Slayer's Terran after all.
Well, here's the thing about this map. In between the natural and the main, there's this huge wide open space where Banshees can hide. And so in that area, you can hide your Banshee. The Marines can't chase it. You can just hit the natural, hit the main really, really easily. So Banshees are great on this map. And that may be what GanZI has prepared, but it could be anything, Moltrap. It could be Pre-Igniter Hellions.
Could be anything.
He wants that faster factory.
Could be battle cruisers.
No,
could be a nuke rush.
It couldn't be battle cruisers.
It could be Mothership.
Oh,
GanZI
is his supply was a little bit late there. He's blocked on building his first Marine.
Nah, he doesn't need Marines.
Just thought I'd make note of that. That was a little bit strange.
He's going to have battle cruisers, man. He doesn't need Marines. Look, there's a starport. That's a clear sign of battle cruisers. No, actually, there's a tech lab going down on the barracks, which he's probably going to switch over to that starport when it finishes in order to make Banshees, and actually making Hellions in the meantime instead of Marines. Usually you see them make Marines out of the barracks and then use the factory to make the tech lab. This time he's switching it up. So that's actually kind of good, because then if MVP does early pressure with Marines, the Hellions can do pretty well and at least push things back. You know, you can do enough splash damage if you get it right to really shut those Marines down if there's early pressure.
Now MVP has made a command center. It's finishing up pretty shortly here. And there's the switch for GanZI to make those Banshees. Now MVP made a reactor on this barracks after starting the factory. It's going to allow him to get a lot of Marines out, which is pretty safe. So you can get those Marines out and deal with the Banshees. But without Stim, Marines just don't do very well against Banshees.
Now does he have, okay, he does have, GanZI's gotten a second gas, look at that, each taking a control tower, or a watchtower, a watch warp gate, a watch cute mini warp gate with colors.
You click on it, it has question marks. The client I'm using doesn't know how to translate that.
I have no idea. And GanZI's going to expand off this. That's really interesting. And what is that upgrade? I have not seen that upgrade
he's
before.
Researching the Caduceus reactor by mistake.
Oh.
The Caduceus reactor.
It might not be a mistake, because look, the scan goes down on that tech lab, and as soon as the scan finishes, he's going to cancel it, so he thinks he's going cloak and invests in Ravens. There it goes.
Nice. That's
Nicely done by GanZI.
That's actually really clever. And I remember someone doing that before, and it may have even been GanZI. I remember you were casting it. I was back in the States watching, and I just completely, that caught me off guard. That's so smart that he would do that. It's really clever. Yeah. I look like an idiot now. I'm like, no, Moltrap, he did it by accident.
And you know, I'm not surprised, because that is a very Brood War-esque play. I mean, it's smart anyways, and obviously Starcraft 2 players that are new to it. Hold that thought. GanZI's Banshee getting pushed back.
There's
a Viking coming out. Oh no, that Banshee needs to do some damage. It's not going to escape. Not from MVP's Viking.
That's for sure. Now,
anyway, it was just real quick. It was common in Brood War to like cancel upgrades and do fake upgrades and that kind of thing. So it's kind of a common thing. And whoa,
GanZI adding 2 additional factories, going up to 3 factories.
Getting Pre-Igniter for his Hellions.
So he really wants to go very heavy on his Hellions, using one of those factories on a reactor when it finishes up.
Dude, he's meching TVT.
Yeah, he is. Now, MVP does have a good amount of Marines out. His siege mode hasn't been started yet, but he's about to have a second tank out. Invested a little bit in those Vikings, just wanted to make sure that no Cloak Banshees would be around. You've got to have those Vikings, especially when Cloak is out, to deal with the Banshees, because if you don't, the Marines just aren't going to cut it without Stim.
Yeah. Now, this is really interesting. He's actually, GanZI is following this up with a drop with those Blue Flame Hellions, which is a little strange considering he's already seen Vikings. You know, he's already seen at least 1 Viking and might be anticipating more. It's he's going to have to be very careful with this drop, and the drop is going to get spotted by MVP, by these Marines, and maybe surrounded on both sides, although the Hellions could easily kill those Marines. But what can he do now that he's... basically his drop has gotten shut down?
Well, here's the thing. He has added a lot of factories. He may be planning on just continuing to produce Hellions off of 1. Yeah, he's got 1 factory with a reactor, so he's just going to continue to produce Hellions to help clean up those Marines. Uh-oh, got to be very careful with how he engages this. Not want to engage Hellions when there are tanks around. Want to try to isolate those Marines, kill the Marines when they're separated.
Yeah.
Now, GanZI is making 2 tanks at a time out of these factories. That is pretty huge, because his tank count is going to go crazy through the roof very quickly. And when that happens, the Marines are going to be very important for MVP. Oh, he's going to try to sneak some Hellions by.
Oh, denied.
Losing those Hellions is huge because if you don't have Marines to buffer for your tanks, you've got to use those Hellions to clean up those buffering Marines. And if you don't have the Hellions, then your tanks aren't as powerful.
Yeah, because otherwise they're just going to have too many Marines, and you know, tanks slaughter Marines pretty quickly, but not quickly enough that they can't just stim in there and pick off the tanks so really quickly. Yeah, so losing of some Hellions, the drop gets shut down, Banshee gets shut down with almost 0 damage. GanZI is like, he's like ahead in supply right now, but everything's just going wrong for him.
Yeah, he wanted to isolate those Marines. That's exactly what he wants to do. Notice he left the SCV at the Zelnaga Watchtower so he could see when the units were coming out. He wanted to catch those Marines when they were isolated, and that's what the Hellions can be good for, but unfortunately wasn't really able to pick any off there. Siege mode was done for MVP, so he tried to do a little bit of push, and a Viking battle over here does go to MVP's favor.
Oh my goodness.
Everything going wrong for GanZI in this game, but he's trying a build that can potentially work, but it has all these, you know, you got to check off all these boxes, make sure it fits all the criteria, meets all the requirements, catches those Marines, does some damage here and there, but so far he hasn't been able to do anything. He's going to lose another unit here.
Oh no!
Oh, that's actually a dropship full of Hellions.
Oh, the medevac tries flying through the rocks. You see that? It kind of glitched through the rocks there. But it didn't work. Could not hide from that Viking, and so wow, loses. Man, he's just lost so much stuff. How is GanZI 20th supply ahead right now? He keeps losing stuff.
Right now he's actually ahead in worker count as well, but he has 12 Hellions out, and those really make up the difference in that supply. That's a lot of supply in those Hellions.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, basically MVP has just got tanks and Marines. That's all he has really in his army. He's got the few Vikings out.
Yeah, and I mean, if here's the thing, if GanZI can catch those Marines with some good Blue Flame Hellion hits, you know, come in from the side or something like that, or they're bunched up, he can slaughter those Marines easily and really take a decisive advantage off that. So it's going to come a lot down to positioning and micro when a battle eventually does happen.
And GanZI should be able to pull ahead in siege tank count because he had that second factory up. And MVP still hasn't had his up yet, but GanZI just didn't have the economy to support 2 siege tanks at a time, so he hasn't really pulled ahead that much yet. He's only 2 siege tanks ahead right now. Does have vision at the watchtowers, so this push by MVP is going to be spotted. MVP could be very scared to move out. Nice, puts missile turrets up in the middle, has control of those watchtowers, has a siege tank spread very nicely. It's going to be hard for MVP to break through here.
Yeah, no, I think MVP realizes now that GanZI is going for mech, and he's starting to mix in Marauders instead of adding Marines. It's a really smart idea because, I mean, the Marauders are going to do really well against Hellions and tanks. So it's a really smart idea. I think he's got enough Marines, 19 on the map. It's going to be plenty for any anti-air he needs if he mixes in a Banshee or something. Although GanZI does now have a Viking advantage.
Yeah, he does. And it looks like MVP...
He did, I guess.
MVP is going to move around on the map a little bit. He's trying to find a weak spot in this wall, and it looks like he's found it. Hellion's going to run in and try to do some damage, but there's so many Marauders in this mix. Viking is going into battle, and it looks like GanZI does siege up in time, but he's not going to hold the watchtower.
Yeah, nicely done. Good target firing by GanZI to stay even in that Viking battle, where he actually got ahead, but MVP added another Viking.
GanZI adding so many factories, just really wants to have that tank advantage. Because once you get that critical mass of tanks, it doesn't matter how many Marines or Marauders your opponent has, because you have so many siege tanks they can't even fire.
Yeah.
The siege tank kill all of them before they get close enough.
Now you can kind of see, I mean, we always talk about TVT being a very positional game, and you can kind of almost see that on the minimap right now. If you look at like the blue line and the purple line, GanZI is trying to establish a perimeter that MVP can't get into, and you see that Marine testing that perimeter. But MVP,
engagement in the south part
actually the middle here. MVP moving in.
Yeah, he breaks through part of the side. He found a weak spot in the wall. Hellions trying to do their best to engage here, but they're fighting against Marauders and siege tanks. But they do buffer a lot of damage, and GanZI cleans up most of this force. May have to land some of his Vikings. Nope, does clean it up.
And GanZI loses out on that battle, but does retain control of the southern watchtower.
And that's really what's important for him right now. He's 3 tanks ahead of his opponent, but that's all the real advantage he has. And uh-oh, some Marauders going to snipe a tank in the middle of the map.
The top. There we go. Yeah, Marauders moving in. Just too much stuff there, though. I think he did take out 1 tank. But GanZI, oh no, hold that thought. MVP charging in the other side now. Now that GanZI moved half of his tanks up to the north. Perfect play by MVP, attacking where GanZI is weak and falling back where he's not. and MVP's just going to move right in between the bases here.
Oh, he's got so many Marauders. He's going to target down those siege tanks. Sieging his own tanks up. These Hellions not doing very much damage. The Vikings trying to flank here at the side. He's going to lose a lot, but it looks like he may have enough to just barely clean this up.
And GanZI landing his Vikings to join in the fight as well. But it just took so long for those tanks to die. They did a ton of damage. Took out tons of SCVs in the process of that.
Yeah, and it looks like GanZI is going to do a counterattack with a lot of his SCVs. Just trying to buffer those Marauder shots because there's so many Marauders out on the map that it makes it very difficult to move anywhere with your tanks because the Marauders will just kill them so fast, slow them down, do bonus damage to armored units like tanks. And now suddenly the middle of the map is controlled by MVP.
Yeah, I'm really surprised that MVP hasn't expanded again recently, or not recently, but at all. He's still got only that second base. He does have a command center for a third base, but he hasn't moved over yet. Hellions trying to move in here are gonna get denied by those Marauders. Do no damage.
Yeah. Now, normally when you see this build, you see Banshees mixed in to deal with those Marauders.
Oh yeah, that'd be a good idea.
We haven't really seen GanZI do that, and I'm really surprised by that because basically the Marauders are going to rule the day against this type of a build.
And here's the thing: this map, part of what MVP is doing here is he's using the construction of the map. GanZI has to protect sort of the right and the left ramps if he really wants to keep MVP from going into one of his bases like he did last time. And because of that, GanZI has to split up his forces, which MVP is abusing with these mobile Marauders who are moving in and picking off these tanks on their own, exactly like I was saying, trying to establish position on the right and the left at the same time, and he's weak in one of those points.
Yeah, MVP doing a great job of finding the weak spots, breaking through them. GanZI was doing really nicely at spreading his tanks, holding the middle, but now he no longer has the center. He doesn't really know where these attacks are coming from, and for that reason, it makes it almost impossible for him to split his forces efficiently to be able to be everywhere at once. He just can't do it because he doesn't know where all of MVP's forces are.
Yeah, go back to what you said a minute ago. I'd really like to see some Banshees mixed in because he's got MVP doesn't have very many Marines anymore. I don't think he has Vikings any longer either. He's got them somewhere.
GanZI's still making reactored Vikings. His opponent doesn't really need to use Vikings because he doesn't hardly have any siege tanks in his army. It's just Marauders, so the area advantage doesn't really matter that much.
Yeah.
Making some Banshees would really shake things up here. There's very few Marines out right now.
Yeah, exactly. MVP is taking that third base, though, by the way, and trying to take the bottom right gold, but that gets... I'm sorry, GanZI trying to take the bottom right gold. Who was that? Hold that thought. Big battle in the middle. MVP throwing away some forces on those tanks. Just too many tanks for those Marauders to engage. Okay, looks like MVP tried to take the bottom right. Hellions coming in, trying to take out a lot of SCVs. How many kills are on those Hellions? I think I saw 7 on one of them. So nice job by MVP, and actually, yeah, he's missing 7 SCVs from the counter on the unit tab. So GanZI really making use of these Blue Flame Hellions now. It's really, really nice that they're paying off finally. Yeah,
indeed. Just trying to shake things up and kind of keep MVP on the back foot because right now MVP kind of has map control. Here he comes again, targeting down some of these Hellions. Has to be very careful though because there are a lot of siege tanks. Blowing away a lot of Marauders here. A lot of these Marauders really low on health. He may break through.
And those Marauders staying alive partially because of the medevacs, but he only had 2 Vikings, so the Vikings just slaughtered the Vikings and the medevacs.
Just 1 Marine can target down those medevacs. Imagine if those, or rather those Vikings, imagine if those 4 Vikings were Banshees, how different that battle could have gone.
Yeah, or I mean, just the fact that he has those Vikings and MVP doesn't have any Marines to do anything about him.
Exactly.
The Vikings themselves can do damage.
Exactly.
Anyway, it looks like MVP has planetaried that gold on the bottom right despite the harassment by GanZI, so that's going to start paying off really big for him. He's getting about half a K more minerals per minute.
Look at this, MVP is starting to be a little bit decisive and sloppy with his units because that critical mass of siege tanks that GanZI has is just, it's really hard for him to break. It's split out so nicely. Here comes some Hellions into the gold base, taking out several of those SCVs. Lost the Hellions, but very worth it to take out as many SCVs as possible.
Yeah, and that's really what GanZI needs to be doing. Those Blue Flame Hellions, they're like the perfect, they're one of the best worker line harassment units. So it's good that he's making use of that.
Yeah, definitely so. And it looks like a huge force is going to come and try to deny GanZI from making this base over here. He needs to move some of his tanks. I don't know if he has enough forces here, Moltrap.
Oh, he sieges up, but it's too late. The Marauders are already on top of those tanks. He needed to get a few hits off, and MVP charging in, destroying an attempt at a 4th base by GanZI.
And MVP really is the game genie, Terran. He knows all the weak spots, he finds them and abuses them. And really, GanZI has a great siege tank force. He's split his siege tank so well, but there's always a weak point.
Yeah, I mean, he lost a lot there. I think he's still, yeah, he barely has enough. There's the Banshees coming out. Vikings coming in for MVP. Does GanZI have enough Vikings to win the Viking battle? I don't think so anymore.
Yeah, he threw a lot of those Vikings away earlier, but this one Banshee is doing a lot of damage. And it looks like GanZI's going to siege up here in a good position. There's so many tanks that MVP, I'm not sure if you can hold this base. There's no easy way to engage those tanks at the top of the ramp. There's only one place for the Marauders to run around. Yeah. There's no easy way for them to kind of sneak around the back and flank. I
mean, Marauders are really good against tanks, obviously, but if you have enough of them sieged up, it's just they don't survive long enough to actually get to the tanks to deal their damage, especially if you don't have that many Marauders right now. MVP doesn't have a ton of them.
Yeah, he's got about 20 of them, but a lot of them are really low in health, and he's actually going to try to move up here and target down this base in the north because he realized GanZI's forces were out of position, finds, again, the weak spot, forces this orbital to lift. Hellions trying to come and help out, but they're not doing very well against those Marauders. SCVs are going to buffer here a little bit. Finally, the siege tanks should clean up, but he's losing so many SCVs.
Oh, he's going to lose all those Marauders. They've got nowhere to run right now, and the tanks just barreling down on them, rolling over them.
Yeah, and he's actually
crushing those Marauders.
Yeah, he's moving into position right here to siege up this base as well. And oh man, if MVP doesn't clean up these tanks extremely well, he's actually going to be in such a tough spot. He's actually losing so many of these Marauders, and when the rest of the siege tanks join up to the fight, it's going to be really hard to hold this base.
Yeah, he did take out a good chunk of tanks there, though. That was a nice move. A little bit puzzling by that GanZI just attacked with like a few tanks.
Let me tell you guys some numbers. Right now, for units, GanZI has 43 SCVs and 19 siege tanks, and that's it. That is it. He is making only siege tanks full trap, and it's working out for him.
That's actually kind of crazy. Yeah, and I mean, unless MVP like gets Banshees, there's no reason not to make siege tanks only.
It looks like MVP is going to try to go through the center of the map again, avoiding those siege tanks. And he does have a largely mobile force, but he doesn't have any medevacs out. The Marauders are getting low on hit points, so he has to be very careful about where he goes.
Wow. Here's the thing, though.
GanZI sieged up just in time.
Yeah, that was close. Here's the thing, though. MVP, his superior macro is starting to kick in. He's taken the high yield in the top left now. Although yeah, so if that starts, yeah, that's really running strong. And oh man, that orbital that had the lift earlier gets picked off. That is hugely bad. Hugely bad for GanZI.
Yeah, GanZI is running out of time. Basically, he's got a force that he's working with right now. He's got one mining base, not getting a whole lot of economy done, so he's got to get something done with these siege tanks now, or MVP is just going to overwhelm him with whatever tech he wants.
Exactly. Yeah, he could do whatever he wants, basically, because he's gonna have so much money pretty soon. All he needs to do is take out those 20 siege tanks once.
Exactly.
GanZI won't be able to rebuild them.
Exactly. Those Marauders are just so good against siege tanks when the siege tanks don't have the critical mass. So nice Hellion harass here. No planetary to help defend, so he's gonna have to pull the SCVs away.
He's micro those. There's big clump of SCVs. Go, GanZI, go! Yes! Massive kills. Might even get a few more kills here before those Hellions are chased off.
It's like he barely gets away with those Hellions. And he's actually now moving his siege tanks up to the north to try to siege up that base. And MVP actually makes it into an orbital rather than a planetary.
I actually like that move. Yeah. Because against tanks, planetary is not going to do too much. Orbital, you can lift it.
Exactly.
You can lift it.
If you make planetaries and your opponent's making only siege tanks, it's so silly. Because it's like never going to even hurt the siege tanks. Siege tanks actually in tank mode outrange planetary.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Nice. MVP is going for a bit of a push here, trying to take out that army on one side, or no, actually fending off that army on one side and moving into the natural. Slayer's GanZI has nothing here in his main. He may just lose his main right now. His whole army off attacking that left side base. MVP's like, you know what? I can lose that base. You can't afford to lose your main. And I don't know if GanZI can do anything about this. He's going to lose everything in his main. Vikings killing his factories. Marauders killing everything else.
Yeah, he is so, his main is so dead. GanZI, I'm not even sure if he should try to come back and defend. He's trying to, but I think he should just go and attack because...
He is. Yeah, that's what he's doing.
He's splitting some of his forces nicely, leaves some siege tanks at the bottom of the ramp where the units are going to funnel down, so he should be able to get a lot of kills and slow down the army from coming back to defend. But there is a pretty scary siege tank force out in the middle of the map that could do some serious damage if he uses it properly. A lot of his tanks on siege here running into Marauders.
Oh no, and some tanks caught out of position as well. Loses a third of his army to those Marauders on their way to join up with the rest. Hellions harassing. Tanks
here coming
trying to kill everything.
They're trying to run down, but smartly, like I said, GanZI has 5 siege tanks down there, and because they have to go down the ramp, it's very difficult to break down that ramp. You've got siege tanks at the edge.
Especially because they triple stimmed earlier to kill the building, so those Marauders are all really low on health.
Yeah, they're basically 2 shots from death.
Oh no. MVP is making a Banshee.
I know, because...
Oh, that's going to end the game. Because GanZI doesn't even have a starport out anymore.
Yeah, he really doesn't have anything.
Vikings.
He's trying to remake Hellions over here at this last mining base that he's got. Starting to get under attack by the Banshee. And the missile turrets. He's got some missile turrets. He does have those starports building reactors, but they're not up and running yet.
Sorry to cut you off there. Yeah, he has the starports now. He's going to cancel the reactors to try and make Vikings desperately.
And MVP is just in such a good position because basically GanZI cannot leave right now. He's only got that 1 mining base with MVP's got the top left gold. Got to be a little bit more careful with those Marauders. Yeah, he's got both golds, top right, top left, bottom right.
Just like in the history of GSL championship trophies, MVP has 2 golds, and GanZI does not have any.
Well, GanZI's looking pretty dead right now, man.
Yeah. It's actually a little disappointing, I gotta say, because he played really well. He played really well, man.
It looks like, sorry to cut you off, it looks like MVP may try to break the siege line at the bottom of the ramp of GanZI's main so he can get the rest of his Marauders out of there. He's moving some Vikings into position, some Banshees as well. And as you can see, basically Hellions trying to do what they can for GanZI. That's all he really has out on the map right now, and MVP kind of shutting him down at every turn. Even if he loses these mules, he's not even going to be that set back by it.
No, he's pretty fine.
I mean, the thing to note is that MVP, he doesn't have that many...
Whoa!
He doesn't have that many workers.
Oh my...
But...
He has 13 SCVs, actually.
That's
what?
True. But with all the saturation he has and all the orbitals he has, that doesn't really matter. In fact, I bet if I look at the income tab, he'll be way ahead. In fact, he's 3 times ahead of the income tab.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was like, is GanZI going to come back in this game because he killed all the SCVs with Hellions?
No, you don't understand the power of mules, Moltrap. You don't understand like I do. I was like, there's no way he has better income. He's got 2 golds and mules. No way.
Yeah, no, I forgot he had so many orbitals. GanZI has forced him to lift one of his orbitals, though, but now at the top, looks like GanZI is going to lose one of his orbitals. He needs to drop those mules and lift it quickly.
I think he's...
And
I think he realizes, man, he's in such bad shape.
GanZI's going to pick off MVP's orbital, though. This is nuts. I mean, I still feel like MVP has an obvious advantage, but it's...
Oh, but here comes some Marauders at the only mining base of GanZI, picking off a lot of these siege tanks.
And do get shut down. GanZI back in the lead.
Of those siege tanks.
Back in the lead in Vikings, though.
That's true, but the units for MVP have broken out of the main because those siege tanks retreated. That's so many Marauders he's got out. He's got 32 Marauders on the map now. And if MVP so chooses to, there's only a few siege tanks out, and he can just attack into what GanZI has left, and GanZI is not going to be able to defend it.
I can't believe how much damage these Hellions have been doing like that, though. I think MVP, sometimes you get in those games, I've had this before at least, pros don't often, but sometimes you get in these games where like you just kill everything but like their one like last mining expansion. You're like, I've got this game won, and you like relax and you're like, oh man, easy peasy, all I have to do is get some forces and like, anyway, hold that thought actually, MVP going in for the kill.
Yeah, the Vikings aren't even landing, the SCVs are coming out, but there's only 2 siege tanks left. Actually, there's only 1 left now, and once those siege tanks die, the SCVs are going to fall so quickly. The last siege tank falls, the Vikings finally joining into the fight. But here comes another flanking force of Marauders, and it looks like GanZI is all but dead. Moltrap losing all of his SCVs. GG.
GG. And that was a good game. GanZI
is the definition of GG.
GanZI putting up a stellar fight considering how bad of a position he was in. But MVP the victor regardless. Actually his name is
Victor for short.
But he is Victor for short, exactly. Anyway, but yeah, I feel like MVP...
Googans. I saw it. It said Googans.
There we go. Mystery is solved. I feel like MVP, you know, sometimes you're like, oh, I've got this game. Whew.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I'm so glad I've won this game. All right, let me get this force. And you do that, and then they start being really annoying and doing harassment. You're like, come on, just leave already.
Well, once he got those tanks down, he caught the tanks up position with Lars. Like the last tanks GanZI had left, I think he was like, okay, you can harass my bases, but you can't kill my orbitals with those Hellions. You can't actually kill my bases. So I'm just gonna make a bunch of orbitals, and I'm not gonna make SCVs because I can drop so many mules.
Yeah.
But the next map is gonna be Terminus Re, a huge map, bigger than Dual Sight, like so much bigger than Dual Sight. Can you imagine how epic that first game was? What's this game gonna be like, Moltrap?
Yeah, man, we had like a crazy epic positional macro game on Dual Sight with the 2 base, like 10 total bases map. We're gonna be going to Terminus with like infinity bases all over the map. Okay, a little less than infinity, but several, more than several. We'll narrow it down one of these days. Terminus, my point, big map.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting at here.
You can see on the previous screen, Sella, he's looking on to GanZI on the outside. I don't think GanZI can see him, but you can see the reflection of Sella. He's looking in at him, cheering him on, making sure he's ready, making sure he's prepared, you know, trying to get him pumped up because he didn't play badly last game. In fact, his strategy was really interesting. I wish he made Banshees earlier.
Yeah,
that was kind of a funky game.
That would have been fun to like see him switch to like mass Banshees and like just come out with 6 Banshees out of nowhere.
Yeah, he would have cleaned up so many of those Marauders.
While MVP had like 6 Marines on the map.
Yeah.
That would have been awesome. At the same time though, I was waiting. When GanZI only has siege tanks, I was waiting for MVP to switch to battle cruisers. Didn't happen.
He didn't have the economy because of the Hellion harass, but it would have been awesome.
Anyway, we're going to get to map number 2 here. Game number 2 in short order. It's going to be Terminus RE. It's going to be awesome. GanZI versus MVP. Will MVP pull out the 2-0, or will GanZI show some more spectacular play and tie it up? Let's find out.